Everybody, and welcome back to the Mustapha's Game Room podcast. We just finished last week with our E3 coverage in partnership with MMO Examiner. Now we're back full on us, Mustapha'sGameRoom.com, and we are bringing you our E3 post show, where basically we're just going to talk about stuff that we thought was really awesome at E3. It's just going to be a casual conversation. I'm Mustafa. With me, I have to my right Jeremy Moore, and underneath me, James Cowan. Yeah, basically we're just gonna dive right in, and I'd like to ask the question overall: what did you guys think of the show?
I thought that it was one of the best E3s I've ever seen. Last year, I was like, wow, I'm totally blown away. We started crazy strong with Bethesda. There's no way this year can top it. But this year has really been phenomenal. I think that Xbox had an absolutely fantastic conference. Sony had an absolutely fantastic conference. Nintendo didn't have a whole lot of stuff to show, but what they did show was really, really impressive. Bethesda was whatever, and Ubisoft was like, it was pretty good. But
Yeah.
as a whole, E3 was absolutely fantastic.
Hmm.
Yeah, I totally agree. I only was able to catch three of the streams,
Yeah.
but they were all amazing. Bethesda really had some big, awesome announcements, and
Hmm.
the way they did it was amazing. Xbox, just the rapid fire, just
Absolutely.
just they kept one after the other, really, really good announcements, and then um, what was the other one? Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh, Pretty good show.
Hmm.
Could have been better, but they had some cool stuff. Yeah, those are the three I saw. I don't know about Sony. I don't know about Nintendo. Maybe you guys can fill me in on that later. But
Yeah.
ones I saw, pretty awesome.
Um. Yeah. Absolutely. Overall, wonderful show. Every conference was consistently quality stuff. Back to back line. I can say at least one thing from every conference that I walked away saying I want to buy this, with the
Mhm.
exception of EA. And so that's always good. Yeah, I really liked that the focus was on games, but I also like that there was sort of this undertone. It was like this sort of ominous announcement that like a new wave of technology is coming, but nobody quite showed us what it was. Like
Yeah,
Project Scorpio, they're like, here are all the specs for this device, but you're not really gonna get a good look at it. And then
yeah,
And we don't know how much it's going to cost.
Nintendo was like, here's like the most beautiful Zelda game in history for this new console, but we're not showing you what the console is either.
yeah. I can't
And
believe they didn't show that.
Sony was the only one who were like, okay, here's everything that we talk about, we have visual for. And then they didn't talk about their new PlayStation that they already confirmed was supposed to be coming out this year.
Yeah,
So,
after saying that PlayStation is a closed platform, so it's
yeah.
like, wait, what?
Yeah,
What?
what do you guys mean? You know?
Which makes me wonder if they're going to do. I don't know if there's even a way to do some sort of like firmware or software update that allows it to just like encode and upscale
Hmm.
video at least for 4K, so like you could
Yeah.
watch movies and Netflix and stuff with 4K because that console just can't run games in 4K, which is fine because most people don't have 4K TVs and they won't for another like 2 years.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
I'm wondering, maybe they pulled it out because Xbox was too good. Maybe Project Scorpio was just so impressive that they're like, actually, we don't want to do this anymore.
Well, no, they
What was
said beforehand that they weren't going to. Like they said days prior to the event,
Okay, that's good.
they're like, all right, the PS4, whatever, I think Neo or something is coming out, and it's supposed to be coming out this year, but it's not going to be present at E3. The same way they were like, we're confirming The Last of Us 2, but we're not showing it.
Mhm.
It's like,
The thing that was really funny about Xbox's conference is that they're like, all right, so check it out. We got this new Xbox, got the same specs as the old one, but it's way smaller and it's super cheap. How exciting is that? And everyone's like, that's pretty cool. And then they're like, check it out. If you want to play games that look absolutely beautiful, you can buy our new, really expensive console. We didn't say how much it's
mhm.
going to be, but it's going to be really expensive. But if you want to spend a bunch of money, that's how you play games that look really great. Also, you can play all of our games on PC now. Oh crap! Wait a second. If they're going to spend
Maybe
a
just
bunch of
buy a
money,
PC.
maybe they just buy a PC. Oh
Yeah.
no. And then
Yeah.
Sony was like, it's just a console. Have fun. Have fun with our console.
Exactly.
It's not going to change. You can just have the console, whatever, go
And
crazy.
I think it's different, but it's not that one's better than the other.
Hmm.
I personally prefer console gaming. Like that's just the style that I have. I would love to sit down in front of one box and know that I'm having the same experience to some capacity as everybody else who shares that box, which means that nobody's out there playing GTA on the PS4 and having it perform that much better than mine. Which, it's like I like the flat rate, simple, less work for me type of deal. Because when I sit down to play a game, it's to relax. I don't want to do much thinking unless it's directly within the context of the game. So it works for me. But I can also understand why some people want to have more customization over their experience. Because, again, going back to that theme, autonomy and player choice is key. Well, I don't know why I'm having... Hold on, let me mute this. Alright. But yeah, like, player choice is key in how you experience something as well as what you're experiencing. So, I understand it, but I think that both conferences brought a lot to the table. I don't remember the name of the game that Platinum showed at Xbox's conference.
Oh, that cool dragon thing?
Yeah. What? Like, that was incredible. It was like DMC, Bayonetta, the co-op nonsense. It was nuts, crazy.
It was rad.
I'd love to see crazy action games, which is sort of like a subculture genre, make its way more prominently on the Xbox. Because right now, the Eastern style of development hasn't always complemented Xbox audiences. So it's nice to see that sort of coming into play more, for sure. All right.
Yeah.
So let's make like the companies and dive right into talking games. You guys have
I love it.
any particular one game that you'd like to start us off with?
I do. I have all my notes here.
Nice.
One game that I thought looked really, really cool and really, really up my alley was Sea of Thieves, which was shown at the Xbox conference, available on Xbox One and Windows 10. I really, really liked that the game was centered around cooperating with a team and playing against, it looked like a combination of both other players and possibly AI pirates as well. The thing that I liked
give a brief synopsis of the game.
Basically, what the game was, from what we were shown in the gameplay trailer, was it is a game with really charming hand-drawn, cartoonish graphics almost, about cooperating with your friends to control a pirate ship and raid the high seas and go on adventures and fight pirates and, I don't know, get booty and get wasted, I assume. There was a bit of drinking in the game. But what I really, really like about the game, and I've only really seen in a few games, Puzzle Pirates, weirdly enough, on PC from like 10 years ago, had a little bit of this, and Guns of Icarus Online also has it, which is that it takes multiple people to actually pilot this ship. And I really, really like that. It was also something that we saw in the new Star Trek game. So it looked like in Sea of Thieves, one person is actually in control of controlling the ship with the wheel. There are multiple cannons on the ship that anyone can go and take care of. You actually have to raise the anchor, and it looks like it's quicker if multiple people do it together. You have to hoist the mainsail. You have to do all this cool stuff, so everybody's really working together towards one goal of making the ship work very well. So if you're playing with people that you've been playing with for a while, you'll be performing better because you've been growing as a team, and I really like that team dynamic. And then it also looked like it had a lot of like physical aspects where after a ship-to-ship combat, the prevailing ship sustained a lot of damage, and they had a bunch of holes in the hull of the ship, and they actually had to like patch them up and try to bail out the water, and they couldn't do it quickly enough, and they lost buoyancy and sank. And that looked really, really fun to me. So that was one of my absolutely keeping my eyes on this game projects. And I'm not it wasn't explicitly stated, I don't think, but pretty much every game that Xbox showed, which for those who weren't able to watch the stream, pretty much every single Xbox game that's coming out that they showed on E3 is available on Xbox One and Windows 10, so you can buy the game once and play it on both, which is pretty cool. And it looks like most of the multiplayer was cross-platform. So if your friend is an Xbox One and you have Windows 10 and you want to play on PC, you can still play the game together. And that looked really, really, really cool to me, and I'm very excited about that.
Sea of Thieves, platforms, Xbox One, Microsoft Windows is what it says on the, I don't know, quick Google side panel thing.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's gonna be legit, so get on board with that.
Oh, it looks so good. Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. I can't wait to grab that. I think I'm gonna be getting a lot of games from the Xbox or the Windows Store pretty soon, when all that stuff hits. which I guess
Remember
I
what
can
that
just
sentence
piggyback off
said.
this and go straight. I was gonna say this till the end, but I don't care anymore. Go straight into the Halo Wars trailer that
Yeah.
Microsoft showed.
Yeah,
Oh, I've only watched that like 100 times since
I
they
bet.
aired it the first time. My God, what a cool cinematic that was!
That
That
was
got me
really
super
nice.
excited. I very much enjoyed Halo Wars One, which is an RTS take on the classic Halo Wars genre or IP, I guess.
Mhm.
So basically, just Halo stuff in an RTS game, which is like amazing. Because I'm a big fan of Command and Conquer and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
playing that like Halo was awesome.
Yeah, James, we
And
have on stream. You yelled. You like actually yelled. It was
He was
yeah,
very. It
very
was very
excited.
pleasant.
yeah,
It was
I
like
was
a
pretty pumped.
young giddy excitement.
Yeah. Oh, it was good. Um, yeah, and so I'm pretty sure the first game was only for Xbox, which was, in my opinion, a risky move putting an RTS game on a console. But they did it really, really well because they didn't give you as much like freedom as you would in like a Command and Conquer, where you can place buildings wherever and click and drag a box and that kind of thing. It utilized the controller very well, where instead of clicking and dragging boxes, you would press and hold A, and it would like have a radius of stuff that you can select and kind of paint over what you wanted to select. And also when it came to building buildings, they would give you a fire base as opposed to an area that you could place stuff in. So you could just select a location and build what you wanted there. They kept it pretty simple. They kept it very rock paper scissors type deal, where there was land units, air units, and like robotic units or something were like the big ones. Um, so I'm really excited to see what they do for Halo Wars 2. It looks like they're going to change it up a bit, and I really want to get it for the PC because hopefully it'll be maybe a little more PC oriented. Who knows? But looks awesome. That cinematic is amazing. The artist they chose to do the music was great. I looked him up, and he's got some really good stuff. Oh, everything about it's great. So looking forward to that.
Very exciting.
Yeah, that's my big
It's
one.
really good. I have a pretty long list here, but one of the, I would say, for me, unsung heroes of this E3 was Ubisoft's sort of genre convergence title Steep, which
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
actually signed up to get into the beta for on PS4. Like,
Cool.
that game looks like the epitome of ambience, and comfort, despite having this really sort of fast-paced winter sports action side of it, where you can crash into trees and watch your friends die. There's also like this comfortable
There's a
hang
lot of that.
gliding and like a really sort of beautiful render of the Alps, and everything looks very faithful and comfortable. And like I personally, I've never really been big on sports games, but every sports game I've ever played and enjoyed has been winter sports. So I think
That's cool.
it definitely looks like something I'd be into. Will I pay $60 for it at launch? We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely something that somewhere down the line I intend to buy.
I feel like it was so different that it captured your attention. It certainly captured mine.
Yeah.
But at first we were like, okay, and then I
Yeah.
guess the more
Yeah.
it sank in, we were like, this is really something else, something different, something new. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that too. Again, don't know if I'm gonna buy it, but I'd certainly like to try it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Get rid of my cursor here. That was weird. Um. Yeah. So.
Yeah, Steep
James,
looks
do you
good.
have another one?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but Steep is one that I've been mentioning to a lot of people. But
Mhm.
I guess my next one, also from the Ubisoft conference, was Growing Up.
Oh, of course.
That was a game that I kind of called, and I was pretty proud of that. I want to grow home too, but they changed it to Growing Up, which is fine by me because they kind of changed up the game a little bit,
Mhm.
and it looks like instead of being on an island and growing a plant, you are on this little planet, and you grow a plant and multiple plants, and I guess it's going to be pretty different from the other game because with the grow home, you're a little robot running around
Mhm.
growing a big plant up to space. But with this game, it seems that you have infinite space. So I don't know what the objective is
Yeah.
exactly, but it's so, like you said, another ambient game. One you
Yeah.
can just
Yeah.
put on some music, look at the pretty colors, and just really relax and enjoy. That's one of those games I can always get into. So growing up, hopefully it's going to be like it's going to have a similar story to that of as a successful game as kind of what I like to compare as The Purge, because The Purge, the movie, this is way out there, but The Purge, the movie, was really interesting and did well enough. The first movie wasn't great. Second movie, they took the success of the first movie and actually made a good movie with their great idea.
Yeah.
So Grow Home was pretty good and hopefully did successful enough to make an even better sequel.
James, that
So-
Purge comparison
I think that's
is
perfect.
the ideal segue into the next game I want to talk about, which
Purge
is
election year? Yeah,
Watch
coming
Dogs
out.
2.
Yeah.
Watch Dogs 2. Oh,
Watch
yeah.
Dogs
Looks
2,
very
I think, is
promising.
also going to have a Purge success story where the
Yeah,
first
I hope
game,
so.
when everybody saw trailers for Watch Dogs, it was like, oh my goodness, I'm so excited for this game, because, I mean, duh, it's all about hacking and interacting with this high-tech environment. But in execution, I think its biggest flaws were that it was too small in scale. Taking something about world influence and focusing it on one character rarely works. And if you're not Naughty Dog, I wouldn't try it. So I think with Watch Dogs 2 focusing on this large-scale movement and how, all this hackery, I suppose, influences the world, I think is a step in the right direction. Also, game looks like it has way more style to it. The first game felt it felt kind of typical in the sense that, like, Alden Pierce is the name of the protagonist, right?
Mhm.
He, to me, has the most boring, dreary appearance and
Yeah.
just characteristics. It's like, oh wow, this is original. But and maybe not even the new main character has my interest peaked, but the guy with the weird mask in Watch Dogs
Oh, I
2
love that
who
mask. I've been thinking about it
emotes
every
with
day.
his goggles, that is so cool, Like
Amazing.
that's unique, that's interesting.
Like, how does he see?
Yeah, exactly. That's a big question, but
All the answers will come, I'm sure.
yeah.
Hang on, I gotta fix my monitor. 1 second. Keep going.
Jeremy, any thoughts on Watch Dogs 2?
I'm really excited for it because I played the whole heck out of the first Watch Dogs, and its gameplay was like it had the right idea of what it wanted to do, but it didn't really do it. The gameplay was very, very linear, and it didn't really take advantage of any of the systems that it created.
Yeah.
I think a good analogy is for anyone that played Grand Theft Auto 5 in the very beginning of the game when you're in Yonkers and you're in the past, it has these cool mechanics where like you're driving and your car hasn't been made yet, so the cops don't know that it's you, and you get to drive for a little bit longer before the cops realize that you're in that car. And it had a couple other great mechanics like that it never ended up using for the rest of the game. And that's kind of how Watch Dogs 1 was, where it had these great mechanics where you could hack things around you and you could stealth through environments, but then it never used them ever again. Which was really disappointing. The thing that made me the most upset was that there were all these mechanics in play that allowed you to try to get through missions and objectives in a non-violent way and not kill anybody, but you were never rewarded for doing so. It was just harder, and the story still acted exactly the same, no matter what you did, and that really made me upset. But in the Watch Dogs 2 gameplay trailer that we were showed, I don't believe he killed any person in the entire thing. At one point, he did grab a gun and he fired, but it was only to break a window and then run away. He pretty much just tased people or knocked people out through melee combat, and I was really, really excited about that. So I'm hoping that game will allow for a bit more avenues of actual gameplay, and it does look very promising.
Is how much, like, what percentage of stuff shown in the gameplay trailer of Watch Dogs 1 ended up being
Watch Dogs 1 started off looking cool because you're like, oh look, you can like hacks and stuff, and then it immediately had him do a shootout with a bunch of cops, and it was like, okay, cool, whatever. So it's just some cover-based third-person shooter with a different skin, whatever. Whereas in Watch Dogs 2, there was no violent actions being shown.
I'm just wondering if they're doing a thing where they show cool stuff like in the first part of GTA and then don't use it, but they showed it at E3 because they knew it would sell.
It's entirely possible. We won't know until it comes out.
I think that this is a little bit different in the sense that what you're talking about is it's like the opening of this is a good example. Super Mario 3D World for Wii U has this really weird thing when you start the first level where the camera like zooms around the world and then it like slow stops right behind Mario's back, and then no level for the rest of the game ever opens with that camera swing. Which is
Right.
like, check out what we can do, you know?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I think that this was a little bit more of, hey, look at these mechanics, look at these things that you can do gameplay wise, and it was more of like it looked as though if you picked up the gun, you could have killed people in the room, you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah.
So I think it's more
But I
about
mean,
showing options.
the most important thing is that you had those options in Watch
Yeah,
Dogs 1, if you remember. Whether or not the developers actually make those matter is another question that we won't know until actual reviews start coming out.
well,
I wonder if it's gonna do a thing like Dishonored did really well, where it gives you everything you can do,
Hmm.
and you can play the story however you want. Um, but the more you get into it, the more you get out of it. I wonder if that's what they're going to be going
I
for.
think
It would
And
be cool if they did, but I have no way of knowing that they do, like I said, until
we have to
reviews
wait.
come out.
I think
Yeah.
even as far as story goes, you don't always have to make it so the stories are so drastically different if somebody chooses pacifist versus violent. I think rewarding people from a gameplay perspective is another way that you could sort of do that. Like making it so if there's a way that you can make it two different types of fun to play the game two different types of ways, I think that in itself can incentivize people. But if it feels like more of a hassle to do something one way, then people are going to go the other way. Which is why I think in Watch Dogs 1, like I didn't play it, so correct me if I'm wrong here, but like in Watch Dogs 1, it was just like, if I can kill people and there is nothing, if there's really no difference, then why not just kill people?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. From both
Mhm.
a story and a gameplay perspective, there was no real reason to do anything stealthily.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that'll be different in the second game. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, from the gameplay trailer, we have absolutely no idea if that's going to be the case.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Hopefully, because it definitely looks to be a major improvement from the last game so far in terms of atmosphere and so far storyline and actually gameplay too, based on what I've seen. So, all right, Jeremy, you have another one that you wanna touch
Oh
on?
yeah, another game that I thought looked very, very interesting is called Detroit Become Human, which
Oh,
was shown at the Sony conference.
yes.
It looks to be a cyberpunk film noir style game where you play as an android who's a member of the police force. And in the cinematic trailer that we were shown, it was handling one event. A android had taken a little girl hostage, and he was going to either kill himself, you, the protagonist, or himself and the little girl, or just the little girl. And I wasn't sure exactly what was going to happen. And in the trailer, we were shown that through a variety of different choices, you could get a lot of different endings and outcomes out of something like that,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was absolutely fantastic. I
Oh
really
yeah.
enjoyed LA Noir, and it looks like it's a step in that direction with a very, very cool theme of being very cyberpunk. I'm
Yeah.
also super into, both from games and just from discussion, I'm super into the idea and the theme of artificial intelligence sentience and
Mm-hmm.
how many human rights they derive from that. And it looks like this game
Yeah.
is going to have that as sort of an underlying tone. So that's really a theme that I
Oh
really
yeah.
love exploring. So that looked very, very promising. I didn't write down a date of when that's coming out, but it's going to be available on the PS4. So I'm super excited to know more
Mm-hmm.
about that game when it comes out.
Same, same. That was one that I was really into. I've been sort of very interested in these heavily narrative based games ever since I got into Life is Strange a few months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and just like the but this seems like it's much more about outcomes and consequences.
Exactly, yeah. If you're
Yeah,
going to make your game heavily focused on story, you better give me the ability to impact the story, because
mhm,
otherwise, I really don't care.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I can ride along for a game like The Last of Us, but that for me is also a rarity. Like my favorite, some of my favorite, very heavily narrative based games are the Infamous titles, which is like if the way that you play influences the story. And it took them a while to get the karma system down, but in the second game, you are just flat out controlling what's happening. You're controlling what characters are present at what times, what missions you're doing, everything is based on your style of play. So I think that there's room for that everywhere. Except JRPGs. I like those linear. Um, yeah, that one is pretty big. I'm excited about that game for sure. Detroit Become Human. Definitely on my list.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks very cinematic. I'm just watching the trailers now.
Yeah.
And, wow.
One that
It's crazy.
I was excited for, and now I'm not sure. Well, it was shown at Microsoft's press conference. Recore, which is Keiji Inafune's brainchild, and
That one.
it's like a three-dimensional platformer game with like these weird robot animal things, and
Mm-hmm.
it looked really cool. But he recently, has come under a lot of scrutiny for the reception of Mighty Number Nine, which just launched, I think, yesterday or the day before. I don't remember, but that game, got poor reviews, and when a game gets poor reviews, automatically you're like skeptical. But then he took a stance in his response of saying that Mighty Number Nine was, and I quote, better than nothing, and that is
Doesn't mean anything.
his team worked tirelessly. And that he hasn't gotten his fix yet, and he wants to do a sequel and all this other stuff. And it's like, don't get me wrong. If you want to take that stance, that's you. But this was a game that had a Kickstarter goal of $900,000 and had 3.8 million pledged to it. So it's like,
Wow.
no, this is not better than nothing. This is people's livelihood who put money towards making your dream come true, essentially. And I fear that if that's the direction that he's taking his personal projects, that I don't
How
know.
much money did that game raise, by the way?
3.8 million.
Jesus.
So
So, in contrast, Star Citizen raised 7 million, and that game has had an immense community following of people being incredibly positive, and is a game literally the size of the universe with infinite sci-fi possibilities. So it's like,
yeah.
when you raise 3.8 million and then you say it's better than nothing, it's kind of like, okay, f you.
That's an awful
Yeah.
stance to take,
It's like,
And-
also better than nothing. We already had Mega Man X. Like, we already had something that wasn't nothing.
Yeah. That's not nothing, And it's also like, dude, you've got a lot on the line here because people are backing you because, number one, they're mad at how Capcom treated you. These people are not just advocates for Mega Man, they're advocates for Keiji Inafune as a person. So you really can't. He released a statement today saying that he owns, all of the things that are wrong with the game, which is like, yeah, you do, because who else is going to?
Yeah, you're the designer, so I don't know who else could possibly own that.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I was excited for that game, and I still think it looks okay, but, I mean, with this poor critical reception, it's a little bit disturbing. And it also, brings me to wonder if there's even room in this day and age for a game in the style of Mega Man.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it's I have fun going back and playing Mega Man X games, but if a game came out today with the same amount of content as one of those games had in the 90s, I don't know if I'd be cool with that. I think I'd want more,
That's true, because it's like the content of those games, like, not saying that those games aren't fantastic, they're absolutely fantastic, and from a historical perspective they mean a whole lot to our industry, but the content that they had was to a huge degree limited by the amount of memory on the cartridge. And games now, like with The Witcher 3, getting through the main campaign takes you about 100 hours of fantastic content, where it's like, if I'm going to pay full price for a game, I want to know that there's a lot of time that I can put into this before I get bored, or if it's a short amount of time, it better be the best damn experience I've ever had.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that I say, hopefully Recore shows us that Inafune still has the designer prowess that he's had going back to his work with Capcom, but if not, he's gonna have a lot of trouble because, and he's not the only one in this position. Obviously, there's been this huge theme of employees leaving these big companies, starting indie companies, and basically stealing back their own IPs. Like Ukulele, like that. There's a Castlevania game that I think is
Yeah,
something
yeah, I've
like
heard about
that.
that. I
And
forget what it's
then
called.
there's plenty of that. And then we've got the Sony press conference where friggin' Hideo Kojima got to walk on stage to the Fury Road soundtrack and
Yeah.
show off his new game, and everybody's like, "Oh my god!" Like, people already know this is gonna be huge. Okay, I don't have to see gameplay. I'll come back in 3 years,
Don't bother.
and
Just the
that's gonna
tech demo
be.
was fine.
I'll come back in 3 years, and that will be one of the most anticipated or best games out on the market. So like he's a guy who's proven his reputation. And all these other people are doing it. Ukulele looks great. Mighty Number 9, everybody was always skeptical of. Especially, again, raising millions more than your Kickstarter goal.
Exactly. With just your Kickstarter goal, you should be able to have just enough.
Yeah.
And speaking of Kojima, the only thing that we were able to see was possibly the theme or tone that he's going for in his next game. And also, he claimed that what we were seeing was rendered real-time in-game.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, it didn't specify what it was rendering on. Was it a dev kit? Was it a PC?
Yeah.
Was it a PS4? Was it a PS4K? We have no idea. Yeah. But it looked very good. And I mean, somehow he doesn't have the Fox engine anymore because whatever has that. But I mean, whatever Kojima has now also looks as good as the Fox engine, which, by the way, is one of the very few engines that is designed to run on console and then be ported to PC that actually runs well on PC and allows PC players to have access to all the settings that they want to. So that thing was fantastic. So I'm sure whatever he's working on next will also be great.
Yeah, definitely. James, you got another game for us?
Yeah, one that I just remembered was that we got a good hard look at I think it was the gameplay of We Happy Few.
Yeah.
Which I saw like a trailer for it a while ago. Didn't go into it, but saw it at PAX. But yeah, it looks awesome. Looks creepy. Looks like it has a good story. Looks like kind of a steampunk 1984 kind of vibe. So looks pretty awesome. Not much to say about it. It's one of those games you just have to try, I think. But I was happy to see it and get more information on it and kind of have a deeper look into it because more details are better. Because just from the trailer, I thought it was like a cult thing or just a creepy culture thing. But now I know that like more details for this, like there's pills involved and the hardcore like government system and police force in place that they have, but everyone's smiling and it's super creepy and they were eating like a rat at the end.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
It definitely creeped me out.
Yeah. Is that its own genre, just creepy?
If I remember from gameplay I watched a few months ago, the game is oriented in it's slightly story driven, but it's primarily open world, and it has a lot of survival exploration elements where like you have to maintain certain stats and stuff. You have to find and craft gear. You can blah 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 with your character, but it still has a lot of story stuff that's actually drawing you through in comparison to something like Rust or Daisy or something of that sort, where it's purely just you're in an open world and you're trying to survive indefinitely.
That's a little different to actually what I was thinking. I was thinking more linear story.
Pretty open world from what I remember seeing, which is pretty awesome. I like being able to go at a problem however I want to go at it.
Agreed.
Nice. You guys want to talk about hardware for a second?
Oh, I just want to real quick highlight. We have Dr. Lovebox in the chat says Fox engine is currently being used for Metal Gear Solid 3 pachinko machines. Hashtag LOL Konami.
Nice.
They've got their lives together. They've got it under control for sure. Oh, goodness. James, you want to talk hardware?
Oh yeah. Dude. Just Xbox hardware, really, is what I'm thinking of.
Ignoring the $400 PlayStation VR headset?
Well, I didn't see the Sony conference, so I actually don't know about that.
Oh yeah, so PlayStation VR is only $400.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, in comparison to Oculus, which is $600 minus the controllers, and Vive, which is an $800 complete package.
Yep.
Do you think it's gonna be just as good as Oculus?
I don't. They didn't give us any stats. I emailed
Right.
Sony for information about it, but they never emailed me back because whatever.
I'm sure they have a billion
I
emails
imagine
right now.
it'll be somewhere close to the Oculus Dev Kit 2, maybe slightly above, but it's probably not going to have full body tracking. God no.
No, I don't think so.
It'll have your basic VR stuff.
Yeah, it'll probably be a seated experience that will be able to track the head a bit. You won't be able to move around too much, but you won't get motion sickness.
They've confirmed
That's
that you'll be
like
able to
that.
play that Eagle Flight game on
Oh, nice.
PlayStation VR.
Well, that was just head rotation. That didn't
Okay.
say anything about head
Well,
tracking, which is super important to make sure you don't get upset
Sick.
and sick.
Yeah.
I want to talk about. We talked a little bit about Scorpio. Looked awesome. High specs.
Yeah, very high specs.
I'm definitely not gonna get it though. Yeah, but the Xbox S really impressed me.
Yeah, I
This
thought that
little
was a really good deal.
Teeny
$300.
tiny little baby console. That's the same as the Xbox One.
I think it's at
And-
40% the size.
I know.
Yeah.
What? And they had like the scale
Teensy,
comparison.
teensy tiny.
So
But yeah, that
small.
especially if you don't have an Xbox now, like it's so cheap. It's
It's
like
like
$300.
Xbox S
That's
is
insane.
the size of the Xbox One's power brick, which it
Yeah.
doesn't have anymore.
And it has an internal brick, which is
So I may get that if I come into a big lump of cash, which I won't. I may pick that up.
let me be very clear.
That'd be really nice. But also,
Yeah.
don't forget the controllers.
I was
This is
going to
something
say
I'm
that.
definitely
Oh
gonna
my
get into.
goodness.
I think I'm gonna order myself a custom Xbox One controller.
Yeah,
and
I've been trying to
it's gonna
find
be
that
amazing.
link.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, I do need to take a look for that. I don't know if it's.
I'll get
They're
that link to
doing
you guys.
now.
If
It's
you
the
want to
Xbox
send me-
designlab.xbox.com.
Oh,
They're $80 though. So
that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
It's a lot. It's
You
20
can
bucks
get-
more than a
you
regular.
can get an Xbox One controller on Amazon for like $50.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean,
This one's
buying
just
it,
special colors.
Yeah,
and you can get your gamer tag on it.
I do want my game tag.
I mean,
Okay,
That
listen,
being said,
listen.
the website itself does display it to you as a real-time 3D model, so that's pretty tight.
yeah,
Okay,
I get
also,
it. That sounds
I-
like a lot of money, but I get it. I would
I
pay that.
killed one of my PlayStation controllers trying to mod it. So I don't want to do that again. I'm done with the surgery. I think I just want to. If I want a custom controller, I think I will splash out because it's too risky opening it up, and I don't know. That really shook me to the core when I put it all back together, and I was like, "Sweet, looks good." Oh, it doesn't turn on.
Oh, minor problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally broken for no real reason. So I don't really want to do that again. $80 is a lot though. That's $30 more than just a regular one. So again, if I come into lots of cash, which I will not, I'll be doing it.
Yeah, but I mean, think about what you're paying for potentially, and I think it makes sense to some capacity, because
That is pretty cool. I just customized one, and that's pretty slick.
yeah, and there is a service element to putting it together, especially with the custom names and whatnot. So I can understand the price. I personally don't have an Xbox or a dedicated PC right now, so I have no reason to splurge on an Xbox
I
controller.
love the Xbox controller so much.
It's so
I
cool.
always have
like,
since
I
two
adore
for
it.
one. Love it
I've
so
been a
much.
Nintendo fan since the dawn of my gaming career.
You've had to deal
but
with
Mhm.
I've
some
never
serious
liked
stuff.
the controller as much as the Xbox 360.
It's
Yeah.
so prime. I still use my 360 controller. I've had it for 7 years, and that's still my
360 's good.
primary PC controller.
Yeah.
I think the Xbox One.
And I've been, as I said, I've been through 1,000 controllers. I'm a Nintendo fan,
Exactly. Yeah.
I've used
1,000
controllers for
wonky
people.
controllers.
I've used controllers for people with 3 hands. I've used controllers that have just been sticks. I've used a bunch of controllers.
Use them
squares,
all.
sticks, made custom for monsters.
Actual
Rectangles with
sticks.
sharp angles.
Yep. One time
You've used literal bongos.
Yep, as a controller, I have used.
They have
actual
TVs
drums.
on them.
Yep. Oh my goodness.
There's a lot of weird controllers out there, man.
Yeah. So and that's why now I use the Wii U Pro controller, which is the Xbox controller, but for Nintendo.
Yes, it is.
So
Yeah,
they
that's the
finally
best way
come
to-
home.
it's a good
And I
controller.
prefer that over everything. Sorry, Melee fans. I hate the GameCube controller. I don't like them. It's just,
not.
So I definitely think that the custom Xbox controllers, that was a big deal for me. I want to switch gears a little bit for the next 10 minutes, and then we'll take the last 10 minutes to talk about something else. But for this 10 minutes, I would like us to each pick a game that angered us, or something that we really didn't like that was shown.
Yeah, I'm
That's
gonna go with FIFA because it took up so much time being pretentious. Being like, oh look, we are FIFA. We brought on real coaches. Here's a coach. He's not good at acting. Awesome, great. Also, thanks to Jose Mourinho for coming on and wasting my time.
Thanks. I was so glad.
And then after Jose Mourinho left and stopped wasting my damn time, it was like we have the best FIFA players, and we brought him in for a FIFA competition to see who's the king of FIFA. Here's an interview with this FIFA player. Yeah, I'm the best FIFA player in the world. Here's another FIFA player. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that no one's better at playing FIFA than me. And now we have 8 FIFA players on stage. This one broke his arm. Yeah, I was running without my shoes on, and I fell. And I broke my collarbone.
Every E3 cringe compilation I've watched, this kid's been like center stage. Because
and then we're like, oh great, 20 minutes later, let's go back to video games.
They spent that entire video, I think it was actually for Madden for that one, but they spent the entire
yeah, that was
video
Madden. Sorry,
about...
so Madden actually. I hated Madden. That's what I hate. They blurred together because I don't like sports games.
They spent the whole video talking about how intense esports are and how hard it is to be a competitive gamer. And this guy gets on stage and says, "I broke my collarbone in a foot race." It's like, stop! You just took all the momentum and intensity in that video and you just winded it. You punched it in the gut and it's all gone now.
Also, oh my god! So I watch professional esports. I watch the international, and I've been following professional Dota for 3 years now, and no one sounds like as much of tryhards as these professional Madden players. And these these Dota players literally make millions of dollars off of Dota, and they don't sound as much as hardos as those Madden players did.
Yeah, I think that it's a little bit of a risky territory, all this focus that's being put into competitive gaming. Mainly because it's been a self-sustaining aspect of our industry for so long.
Yeah, they're trying to artificially make a scene.
Yeah, the more you industrial, like a company that knows how to naturally add esports into any of its games, I would say Blizzard. Simple. The way competitive Hearthstone works just makes sense, and Blizzard is behind it 100%, and they're in talks with the community, but that's a company that's already so heavily in dialogue with its community, So
can I just real quick talk about how good Blizzard community managers are? Jeff Kaplan is the main guy for Overwatch that talks to the community, and so in Dota I've probably read a total of 5 paragraphs of stuff from the devs talking about what they're going to do with the game, and about a week ago Jeff Kaplan made a 10-minute video that was just him talking about competitive play and how he wants competitive play to work in Hearthstone and community feedback and how they feel about everything and what they've come up with. And we were like, wow, that's amazing. And then we were like, oh, McCree needs a nerf. And so does this other person. And then he had an interview, and he was like, this is what we're planning on doing for the nerf, and this might be what we do for the other nerf. And this person also needs a buff. We might do this or this. And I'm constantly in a world of nerfs and buffs with Dota, and I've never had a hint of what's going to happen beforehand.
Yeah.
And then a couple of days ago on a forum, he did a 12-paragraph post on how the matchmaking system works and what the MMR is and how your MMR is affected by different stuff. And it was astounding. And this game's been out for a month now. Yeah. And I already know exactly what the devs are doing, exactly what's coming down the pipe. I know when new heroes are coming out, when new maps are coming out, what they're doing for the competitive scene. Blizzard kills it when it comes to community management.
They're in tune. These are the same guys who shut down an illegal server of theirs and then said, "Hold on, guys, calm down. We're gonna talk to the guy.
We're sorry.
We're gonna talk to the guy who made this and see if we can figure something out." And they couldn't, but they tried. And tell me another company that's gonna do that. When was the last time you heard?
Move on.
When was the last time you heard Game Freak working together with any of these Pokemon ROM hackers and saying, "Let's make this into something," So, yeah, Blizzard is there, and that's what EA needs to look at. Don't try and converge these mediums too fast, because what you're going to end up with are first of all, more of the ESPN controversies and
Mhm.
whatnot about why esports shouldn't be considered a real sport, which is like,
Stop
I
putting it
don't.
on ESPN.
Yeah, it's like
People
I
that
don't.
watch esports use Twitch. We're not
Yeah,
gonna watch
yeah,
ESPN.
yeah,
What?
exactly.
What is that? Who is that for?
Yeah, it's like I don't have a dog in that fight either way, and it's like, well, personally, I feel like the only esports that I personally, I don't like fighting games as esports, and I'm very passionate about that. I don't like talking about it very much because of how much I disagree with it. Because I think that fighting games, especially, and I know that I'm going to get flamed hard for this, especially Smash Bros. I don't think is balanced enough on like a fundamental level to be competitive and worth such large scale amounts of money. And I love Smash Bros. It's like one of my favorite games ever. But
But
I
Smash Bros.
don't.
Wasn't made for that, right?
Yeah, I no,
Don't they
it never
discourage
was.
like
Up
super
until
hardcore?
the most recent game, Masahiro Sakurai, who was the lead director of the series, has always been against competitive play for Smash Bros. And now he's been accommodating towards it, and Nintendo's sort of been behind it. But I'm still not going to agree with it because you can release as many patches as you want, but it's like stages respond differently to different types of fighters. It's not like your Street Fighter or your Mortal Kombat. It's so different. In my opinion, it doesn't work. And most of the stages are banned because the rules for competitive play, take interference in a game that's all about items and random boats flying at you from off screen, and they want to make
Mhm.
that into a game about no interference. And I don't
Yeah.
understand how that works. But I don't want to get into that tangent at all. I do want to talk about one game that they did go over at E3 that I thought was absolute garbage, and I talked about this for like months, but we finally got gameplay footage from the Treehouse Live session, and so I'm going to take a minute to complain about Paper Mario Color Splash because
Go for it.
that game is everything I thought it would be, and that is the worst thing possible. It is a direct sequel to Sticker Star, which the Paper Mario fandom, I guess you could say, universally hated. That game was terrible. It lacked story, it lacked motive, drive, character, any purpose behind combat, and they've taken that and they've done it again. First of all, don't ever make a game with turn-based combat with no experience. Like if
Yeah. What the
they're
heck?
why the heck am I gonna
What is the point
why
of
am I
that?
gonna fight anything if I'm not gonna gain anything from fighting? And it's like if all of the way you fight, everything is consumable, can be purchased from stores, can be found in the environment. Why then am I going to fight something to gain something when I could just walk around and explore it? I could have beaten all of Paper Mario Sticker Star without ever having fought anything that was not a boss.
Yeah,
And
that's the whole thing. And then it's like, why am I ever gonna want to fight just like a random trash mob? Because it's gonna use up my consumable attacks.
yeah, yeah,
I need
exactly.
those for later. Are you
Oh my
kidding me?
goodness! And then like Color Splash, I'll give it this. It's pretty, but and I'm a Toad fan. I own a Toad amiibo. I like Toad, but I don't want every single character in the game to be Toad. That's weird. Everything looks the same, and then the world feels lifeless and stale as a result of that. Like the Mario and Luigi games, which are another set of RPGs separate from Paper Mario, have neutral characters. But it's like these are male bean people and female bean people, and then like a Yoshi over here, and then like this rock type dude over here. There are like a million different types of characters. And so when you walk up and talk to someone, it's like, oh, they have an origin that I can sort of surmise from looking at them. Whereas in this new Color Splash game, it's like, wow, that's a Toad. And that's it. That's all the details we have for you about this character. He's a Toad.
Both important and unimportant.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Exactly.
what the heck
This
is
Toad
the
is
point
going to
of
be
that?
your companion for the entire level, and you're supposed to grow attached to him, even though he shares nothing that's unique about him. All he has is that he's a Toad, just like everybody else in the game. You know,
So boring.
it's yeah, it's tragic, and they're trying to appeal to people by slapping in these things like they're adding the Koopalings to the game, and it's like, wow. But it's like none of these things are what made Paper Mario good. You know, slapping the paper aesthetic into a plot point isn't going to make the game good, because we never played Paper Mario because it was about a paper character.
Exactly.
Nobody ever
It was
picked the game up.
it was never like get it, we're paper. It was occasionally there were like jokes that were like, hey, get it, you can stand sideways because
Yeah.
you're paper, and then you can go through stuff. And you're like, oh, that's funny. But they were people, and
Yeah.
the art style was paper
Yeah,
because it was like
exactly.
a story. That was the joke. They weren't actually paper people.
Yeah, I don't know who they handed that over to, and it's like, shame on the company behind this, because it's Intelligent Systems. These are the guys who make Fire Emblem. So when it comes to deep writing
And they're
and
supposed
clever,
to be intelligent.
when it comes to deep writing, clever character, and so on, you know, they're the bee's knees. And I can't believe I just used that phrase, but you know,
I'm glad that you did. I
it's
like
the
it a
most-
lot.
it's the most
James has
applicable
bees at his
thing.
house.
You know, they're awesome. They know how to do that stuff. And then all of a sudden, you know, these past few years, they've really fallen off. Like Fire Emblem Fates, I liked, and there were some story aspects that were incredible. But like Codename Steam, that game didn't really have much of an audience, you know, or an appeal. You know,
Who was that for?
Paper Mario Sticker Star was bad, objectively bad. It was just a bad game. Everything was pointless. There was no sort of end goal or. I don't even want to go over
It was
this
just
anymore.
bad. I feel about Paper Mario Sticker Star and Color Splash the same way that I feel about how subsequent films were in both the Die Hard and the Jurassic Park series, where it was like Die Hard 1 was brilliant, and it was fantastically written, and it was all around a great action film. And Jurassic Park was beautiful because of the human element, and everything about that was fantastic. And
Plus
then
the
in
CGI was super new.
Yeah, and then in subsequent films, the writers misunderstood what made those films popular.
Mhm.
Like in the Jurassic Park
Exactly.
series, they were like, "Oh, it's the big dinosaurs," and then that's what the next movies were about: big, stupid, frickin' dinosaurs. And it was like, no, that wasn't the important part. And then in Die Hard, they were like, "Oh, it's the explosions and stuff," and it's
Mhm.
like, no, it's that John McClane is just a regular Joe Schmo. That's what makes the movie so good, and that the
Yeah.
writing is very human. Is that they totally misunderstood what made Paper Mario so great. They were like, "Oh, paper."
Yep.
That's funny,
Would you
right?
say-
We'll do paper.
Would you say
You know
that
what?
the reasons? I'm sorry. Would you say that the reasons that? Would you say that the new Jurassic World, and would you also say the new Indiana Jones, lost that as well? Because
Yeah.
guess who's directing the Assassin's Creed movie? The guy who was in charge of both of those movies.
And after seeing the thing at Ubisoft, which was kind of a total waste of time,
Yeah.
it feels very much so like because he's not a video game player. Not that Assassin's Creed is the best video game out there. Like we can have a whole
Bit of
podcast about that and what's wrong
Yeah.
with that series. But it feels like he's probably gonna misinterpret what makes those games good.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I don't know, just movieify it, which will be crap. But who knows? I don't know. I also
Yeah.
haven't seen the Warcraft movie, so who am I to say anything about video game
Yeah,
movies?
I think I'm
Me
going to see the
watch that
Warcraft
too.
movie soon, so I'll definitely give you guys my take on that. We have
What's not
8
the
minutes
DL?
left, so I do want to talk about what for me was the... Sorry, of course, I know this is predictable. For me, best game at E3, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
It looks
which-
fantastic.
Oh
I'm
my
getting it.
god, you
That's
know...
an instant purchase. Doesn't
I
matter.
understand. I get it. I get why they delayed it. And initially, when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh my god, I have to buy this game. And then they said that Monolith Soft, the company behind Xenoblade Chronicles and its sequel, sent 100 guys from their staff to work on Zelda Breath of the Wild, which now I'm getting, looking at how expansive
Looking
the
at
world
the
is and
sheer
everything.
scope of it, they probably brought a lot of knowledge and tech in how to make something like that run well in
Yeah.
Nintendo hardware.
And I was like, you guys brought Xenoblade Chronicles elements into The Legend of Zelda. Well, now I don't just have to buy this game, I have to buy this game for the NX on launch day.
And so
I-
the thing for
I
me
made
is that
commitment.
like
That's gonna be amazing.
I like Zelda combat because it's real time and it feels good. And the biggest thing for me about Xenoblade is that like yes, the story is fantastic and I love all the RPG elements, but the combat just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
Just watching it, I'm just not interested in that at all. And combat
Mhm.
is the main thing of the game. That's how you progress. So I just can't play it. But it's like the size of Xenoblade in the Zelda universe with the open worldness of a Xenoblade type
Yeah.
open world RPG with all of the amazing RPG customization stuff like changing your armor, having lots of different weapons, lots of different items, all that awesome crap. But it's with Zelda combat, Zelda art style, Zelda settings, Zelda monsters. That looks fantastic. It looks
Mhm.
absolutely phenomenal from every GIF and video and stream that I've seen.
Oh,
That game is
absolutely.
a absolute purchase.
And they had the Legend
Yeah,
of
that sounds pretty
Zelda
alright.
Twilight Prince. Cut it out. they had
Pretty
the,
alright.
they had the
You can
Legend
get
of
off.
Zelda Twilight Princess HD game come out with its amiibo, which is Wolf Link and Midna, and they've confirmed that the amiibo compatibility element for Breath of the Wild is that you touch the Wolf Link amiibo to the game, and you get a wolf companion who's like in the shackle. He follows you around, and you can like hang out with him, and he'll attack enemies for you, and he'll fetch food, and it's like.
Mhm.
Now you're telling me I get to go through this with an animal buddy? And it's like, I normally hate the animal buddy trope, especially when they talk. But, like, oh my
Can I
goodness.
get an animal buddy
I'm
without the
now.
amiibo?
No. That is.
On disc DLC, that's garbage.
I think that they've. I think that's just going to be for the amiibo. But
That's garbage.
I'm a fan.
I like it.
That's on disc DLC.
I think that it's one of those things that isn't necessary to play the game. And so. From that standpoint, I think it's okay to reward people for purchasing.
It sounds like a cosmetic thing.
But it sounds no, because the wolf does stuff for you in game and gives you rewards of like food, and he said that he fights for you too. So it's rewarding you and giving you something extra
weird.
fun that I can't have unless I buy more shit. Sorry for swearing.
I mean, yes, but at the same time, it's also first of all the amiibo was exclusive with Twilight Princess HD.
So it's especially hard to get a hold of.
Oh, wow. I don't like
sounds
that.
terrible.
I think it's rewarding loyalty, and I think that's fine, personally.
It would be fine for me if there were an animal companion I could get in-game without having that rare thing. But if the case is that I simply cannot have an animal companion without having that, then that's on disc DLC, and that's bad. It would be one thing if it was just like the wolf followed you around and was cute. That'd be like, oh yeah, awesome. But if he does stuff for you and he makes combat easier, that's terrible.
I'm gonna disagree with you, but I think we can agree to disagree.
Wait, you can only get the amiibo with a purchase of a different game? Is that what I'm hearing?
I think that the amiibo was bundled with Twilight Princess HD, and I do believe that's the only way you can get a hold of it. So
yeah, I don't like that. If you could just buy the amiibo, I'd be pretty alright with that. I don't like the fact that he can fight for you. I thought it would be more just cosmetic, but
I mean,
that doesn't sound great. I mean, yes, I can understand the fact that you're.
I mean, it's an additional feature.
It's
not a necessity to play the game. I think that
amiibo. But are the extra characters in the Street Fighter on disc DLC necessary to play the game? You already had some of the characters. You don't need them all. But having them all makes it more fun.
I think that's completely different because
How?
A lot of the on-disc characters
that's on-disc content.
A lot of the on-disc characters for the Street Fighter crossover with Tekken, a lot of them, first of all, were flagship characters. So they were actual in-game content. Characters like in a Tekken game, not having Lars Alexanderson would be the equivalent of having Super Mario as DLC in a Mario game. Mm-hmm. That, I think, is different in scale than the opportunity to bring something from outside of the game, a character from Twilight Princess, because it's Wolf Link, and bring him into the game when he really doesn't have anything to do with the Breath of the Wild experience. It's all just an added bonus in and of itself. It's not... You're not losing out on content that is crucial to enjoying the game. You know what I mean? Like, especially... in a fighting game, fighters are everything. If you don't have all the fighters in a fighting game, you are missing out on a massive level. But not having this animal companion in a game that you can play without it and is only sort of minorly boosted by having it present, I think it's completely different.
It makes me very upset. If there is a way to get some sort of animal companion in game without it, I think that's totally a-okay though. But whatever, we'll have to see what happens when the game comes out. Yeah,
absolutely. All right. So it looks like we are about at closing time.
Right on.
Thank you guys for tuning in. And thank you all again for tuning into the E3 coverage. And come on next week and we should have another podcast with news and other great content. So thank you all for tuning in and come back soon for more from the Game Room.